You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We have a lot to cover on the program. Now, today, there's a story that's in all the news about these very rich people in the submarine to see the Titanic, and they're lost, they're stranded. As of the moment we're speaking, things may all be resolved by the time you're listening. But if you look at the news covering this, this is what the news used to be like. Every day there are things going on in the world, tragedies, incidents. And the way that the news used to be, even with the cable news cycle when it was newer, they used to get involved in stories and unite people, right? We got all these super rich, one's a billionaire, they're all rich because it's $250,000 or more per person on this summer. And around the world, people are huddled together like, oh, I hope these people on the submarine at the Titanic are alive. I hope they're rescued. And then this is how the news always used to be, the girl in the well, all these stories.
That's right.
And then at some point, they became this poison that was about destruction and dividing of the American people. And
they became politically obsessed. I think it started a lot with Clinton and Monica Lewinsky because that was like ratings gold.
I don't know, but
they're obsessed with Trump. They're just obsessed with him.
What they've become is a political weapon.
Yes, that's true.
The cable news. And I'll tell you, this reporting going on all day about the submarine, tragedy. I hope it turns out well. The people in the newsrooms are flipping out right now that there are people in there that are fighting. We got to get back to dividing people. This whole uniting people together behind an issue, that's not what the news is all about. And I wish they would do more stuff like this as opposed to dividing the country and the world and encouraging people to get to each other's throats. The media are just disgusting. Anyway, let's get back.
And just say on that, it's true. Like, I can't remember the last time. And what happened is these people, because I follow a lot of Titanic. I'm like obsessed with the Titanic. And what it is you leave Newfoundland. It's $250,000 a person. And it's like a 10-day trip. And it takes like 6 to 10 hours to get down and back anyway. They can't find this vessel. It left yesterday, and they have not been able to find it for 24 hours. They have 3 days of oxygen on the ship, the size of a minivan with 5 people on it. So you're right. I can't remember the last time there's been a story in the news that rallied people together to pray for something.
Exactly.
Come together and let's pray for this. Let's hope for the best. Let's rally behind these people. I never see stories like that anymore, ever.
All they care about—
They're all divisive, you're right.
All they care about in the media is dividing people and making people angry at one another. Okay.
Very true. So
Blinken, who's the most effeminate Secretary of State we've ever had— Madeleine Albright was Secretary of State. She was more masculine than this guy. He's over there in China. I guess he's got to pick up the check for Joe. I don't know. He's over there meeting with the Chinese and everything, and today he gave Taiwan to China. I'm going to play this audio. This is Blinken, our very effeminate Secretary of State.
On Taiwan, I reiterated the long-standing U.S. One China policy. That policy has not changed. It's guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, 3 joint communiques, the 6 assurances. We do not support Taiwan independence. We remain opposed to any unilateral changes to the status quo by either side.
Okay. Now, this talking about we don't support Taiwan's independence. Okay. There's a lot of damage control being done on the Twitter today by the liberals on this. And what they're trying to tell you is this is longstanding U.S. policy, and Blinken just restated what the policy was with Trump and everyone else. Well, technically that is accurate, okay? But the way he said it implied something completely different. What the United States supports is a one China policy. Taiwan considers themselves to be China. Okay, they're like if the communists finished their takeover of the United States and we freedom-loving Americans all moved to Hawaii, which is kind of what they did in The Handmaid's Tale. You know, we'd be in Hawaii, but we would consider ourselves the United States government, and we want to have a reunified United States under our free rule. That's what Taiwan is like. So the United States supports what's called oftentimes a one China policy, and what that means is a free China under Taiwan. You know, China doesn't recognize Taiwan, and Taiwan recognizes that they are China, that the current leadership of China have taken over China. While we've supported this one China policy, the tone and inflection that he gave implies that he supports the CCP and not Taiwan, which are the freedom-loving Chinese people. And yeah, exactly. And they're talking about, oh, well, Blinken, he's doing so much to fix the relationship. This is the deal, okay? Donald Trump's policy towards China is the way it should be. We have to return all of our manufacturing to the United States of America. We got to get it out of China. And one of the many reasons that the deep state and the Uniparty and others are after him is because he was doing just that. He was equalizing the trade deals with China and the other countries. But also, he has vowed in his second term to return our manufacturing jobs here. I saw over the weekend, Biden was speaking to some union guys, and the unions are supporting. For the life of me, I don't understand why any union would support Joe Biden or the Democrats. Joe Biden and the Democrats are the reason all the jobs are in China, and we lost all those union jobs in this country, right?
A lot of people are very devoted to their political party, especially if they've been in that party their whole life. And it's like something absolutely catastrophic in their life has to happen sometimes for them to make that shift.
Yeah.
And they rationalize everything in their mind as to why they should still support their political party. You know what I mean? They rationalize it somehow in their mind that's why it's still good. So they're probably telling themselves, oh, he's bringing manufacturing back and things are getting better. And in fact, I just saw an article the other day about how manufacturing's coming back to America. He probably had that written himself.
They don't want that. I don't know what he's... So what Blinken is doing is he's over there kissing China's butt and signaling to them that we're not with Taiwan. And NBC News had a story over the weekend. Let me play this clip. This is about the Chinese spy balloon and why it wasn't shut down. And they slipped and said that, you know, that quiet part out loud thing we're always talking about. This is NBC News over the weekend talking about the Chinese spy balloon and the Biden White House.
Well, we learned, if you remember back in February, after the U.S. shot that Chinese spy balloon down, President Biden came out publicly and said that he expected to talk to President Xi soon, in his words, and that they were going to get to the bottom of this. Well, what we're learning is that behind the scenes, what happened is the president wanted to talk to President Xi. That call has not happened. And he said that he thought his relationship with President Xi could be helpful, that he could tamp down the tensions if they just had a conversation and smooth this over. And his aides made the case that it wasn't the time for that a phone call between the two leaders was not the thing to do to get relations back on track, that rather what needed to happen was to get lower level conversations going.
Okay, now she's droning on, but hear what she's saying here? She's saying Biden wanted to talk to the Chinese, but his staff said no. It's not supposed to work that way. Yeah. They do what listen, I'm not supporting Biden or defending Biden, but the very idea that NBC News does this report, well, Biden wanted to call up the Chinese leader.
Well, maybe he told them to say that to absolve himself from responsibility. He does that a lot. Well, I'll get in trouble. They won't let me do it. He blames other people all the time.
Well, whatever the truth is about it, NBC News, the story there is not whatever gobbledygook they're talking about. The story is that Joe Biden, who's, I'm not happy about this, he's president of the United States, wants to call someone, and his staff says no. They think a better route is the possible best way to go. So they trump the president. That's not how it's supposed to work. And NBC News is it's an interesting thing because, you know, we talk about the cable news and how they divide. The cable news is an arm of the deep state. We all know this. The deep state control the news. The entire national news media is the deep state. There's no doubt about it. It's not even controlled by the Democrats, although they may be liberal. It's controlled by the deep state. So in the deep states world, it's not elected officials that control the government. It's the bureaucracy, like the Colonel Vindman types. Colonel Vindman thought that he should be, these people. So it doesn't even occur to them when they go on the air that there's anything wrong or inappropriate with the president not being able to call someone they want to call and have a conversation with. It's up to the staff. And we used to hear this analysis with Trump, like Trump met with Putin once. There was I can't remember which event it was, but Trump met with Putin, and the media were having meltdowns because he didn't have a national security advisor in the room with him, because Trump doesn't need that. He just wants to have a one-on-one and bond with Putin to get things done. And they were like that for weeks. He did not even have it. How inappropriate. He didn't even have it. What we're seeing with Biden is more common than we realize, okay, with all the past. Most of our past presidents have been like Biden. They've been more with it openly, but they haven't been in control. The country has been run by the deep state and the bureaucracy with most all of our past presidents, except for Donald Trump. And that's one of the things we're dealing with, is this big backlash, is that during Trump's first term, these people that have been running the government for so long were not running the government. There was like I remember there was one instance when President Trump flew to England, and he had a phone conversation on Air Force One on the way to the United Kingdom with the Prime Minister. Before his plane landed, the content of that phone call had been leaked to the press and was in the press. And what President Trump had said, he had talked about this. Someone was listening in on the call and leaked it to the media. And what happens, we talk about this weaponization of the media. What happens with the deep state and the uniparty is they use the media to bully politicians into doing what it is they want to do by exposing things. But this whole incident with China today, everyone knows that not just Joe Biden, he's at the top of the list, but Joe Biden, Mitch McConnell, and God only knows how many members of the Congress are owned by China. They are employees of China, and the United States is a client state of China. In the Second World War, Hitler would have taken over the world if he would not have started a war, but just built factories and made things in these factories and started shipping them around the world.
Well,
and then
he was a serial killer. He liked killing people. That was the whole thing.
Yeah, but
I think sometimes he wanted to conquer Germany and conquer other countries, but I think he also wanted to kill people, and that was kind of an excuse for him to have mass murder, because he was, there were things that happened before he became so big that lead to that.
What we see with China is, if you're a country that wants to take over another country, it's not about the military. It's about
not anymore.
It's about manufacturing things and importing them to them, and then donating and buying off their politicians.
Exactly.
That's how you take over countries now.
And I don't think our government was corrupted as much, it is today. I mean, now it's just a perfect storm of corruption.
You could make. I think it's very possible. And you guys, let me know in the comments. You can let us know what you think about this. I think it's very possible that you could make a strong case that the United States has already fallen and we're under Chinese control.
You think so?
And I've been following this Blinken trip to China. I have never seen a United States Secretary of State travel to another country and be treated like a third world leader. The way that Blinken is handling himself over there is not as if he's president of the United States, but if he or Secretary of State of the United States, he's acting as if he's the Secretary of State for Luxembourg or Honduras, some tiny little country. He's not acting as if he's the Secretary of State for the number one economy in the world, which is the United States. He's acting as he's deferring to China. Never seen anything like this before. And, one thing I've always liked growing up in America, a lot of things I like about America, but one thing I always liked about growing up in America, and I think a lot of you do too, maybe you haven't thought about this, is it makes you very comfortable knowing that not only are you in the best country in the world, but you are an American. We're in the country that controls the rest of the world, right? That we're the dominant country in the world. And when I see what's going on with China, with the spy balloon, how they got away with that, with this trip and a whole bunch of other things. I'm not going to go through the long list. TikTok and all these other things that China is doing. We're not the leader right now in the world. Right now,
that's for sure.
China is the leader of the world. I mean,
Biden's gaffes are getting more and more pronounced. It's happening more and more often where he can't even put a coherent sentence together. And it's not happening once in a while. It's every time he speaks.
Yeah.
It's happening. And before, it was like he'd mess up a word. He'd say a word wrong. Now he's saying things that make zero sense, like God Save the Queen, and other things I don't know off the top of my head, but they've been playing clips of it online.
Today on Air Force One,
the last see this? Month has been awful.
Did you see the video of Air Force One today?
Mm-mm.
Oh my goodness,
he's really declining.
I've never seen them do anything like this. They have shorter stairs now in Air Force One. They have him going in a door. They have him going in and out of a door that's lower on the aircraft, so they can have shorter steps, so he's less likely to fall.
How is there a door lower?
There's doors all over the place on Air Force One.
How's
it's a special plane.
Lower?
Yeah, if you see the video, you'll see it. It's not the way high up door. It's just lower down on the cabin, And I've never seen them do this before.
That's crazy.
And they're doing it so he has a much shorter. It's less than half the height to get to this door. It's like a miniature. It's like a miniature set of stairs on this lower door.
I don't know why they don't. I mean, I don't want Kamala as president, but I really don't know why they don't do the thing where they remove him. But I think what they're planning on, I think Gavin Newsom is waiting in the wings. He's too much on the national stage and challenging Ron DeSantis too much. Like they're going to have a matchup between the two of them. And everybody's talking about him running and in place of Biden. And I know that's what he wants to do. And I feel like he's doing so many interviews because he wants to be on the ready and get national attention and get out there. But I don't know. Joe Biden is not going to step down. That is not, his wife is never going to let that happen. She likes being first lady too much. There's too many perks that come with it. And I think they're really hoping that he will step down. But his doctors and people keep saying there's nothing wrong with him. Yeah. Everything's fine. They're just enabling him. This guy's not going to walk away from this. Are you kidding me? I mean, he's being treated like a king, and there's nothing he can do that's wrong. And, if they think he's going to walk away, that's never going to happen.
Now, there's a massive sale going on right now at mypillow.com. And listen, guys, if you want to support all of the content that I'm connected to, the Brian Craig Show podcast here with Kathy, my YouTube channel, the radio show, and all my content, a great way to do that is to go to mypillow.com and buy something with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. Every time you do that, you're supporting the show. And I talk to Mike Lindell and his office quite regularly, and they are blown away at the great support we have from you and this listening audience with our promo code Kane. They tell me about it all the time, and I want to thank you all for your support. And there's a massive sale. This sale just popped up over the weekend. They updated this on the website when I was doing a live stream. It was being updated as I was doing the live stream on YouTube over the weekend. Listen to this. It's a blowout sale on the MyPillow My Slippers as low as $25 a pair, Kathy. As low as $25 a pair with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane.
That's a great deal.
They have a whole bunch of new colors. There's also new sizes. They have smaller sizes for kids and ladies, and they also have for men larger sizes and wider sizes. I know a lot of listeners have asked me for larger and wider sizes for some of the guys. They have those in too. So as low as $25 for the My Slippers with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane at mypillow.com. There's a really nice blue color they have that's brand new. I think I might want a pair of these, Kathy, at $25.
Those are nice.
Promo code Kane. I could use another pair. They're good for all day wear. I wear them all over the place. And I like those blue ones. Okay, I like those blue ones. I'll show them. All right, we'll be right back.
Are you ready to discover your true identity and step into your kingdom authority? Introducing Kings and Queens from evangelist, entrepreneur, and author Dominic F. Pugliese. This is a powerful new Christian book, and it's available on Amazon. With Kings and Queens, you will discover how to unleash the enemy's greatest fear by awakening to God's plan for your life. You are not who you think you are, and who others say you are. You are only who God created you to be. With Kings and Queens, you'll explore the truth that the Bible reveals. titles. You are his chosen kings and queens, yet many of us live as mere commoners. With this transformative book, you'll discover your identity as a dearly loved child of God and experience intimacy with him and operate in the authority that he has given you as his kings and queens. Unlock the power of the kingdom as you partner with the forces of heaven to advance God's purposes on earth. Experience the encounter with the love of our Heavenly Father and embrace your true identity in God. Order your copy of Kings and Queens, available on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover editions. How would you like to help solve a mystery? Then order your copy of Rock County's Unsolved Murders and Missing Persons from author Terry Garcia, now available on Amazon. This must-read book sheds light on unsolved murder cases and missing persons in Rock County, Wisconsin. But it's more than just a collection of stories. It's a mission to bring justice to the families affected by these tragedies. The author's hope is that supporting these families by getting their loved ones' stories out to the public can ensure that no one is forgotten. With your help, they may be able to find that missing piece of information that could lead to the case being solved and getting justice for the families. Rock County's Unsolved Murders and Missing Persons is available in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover editions on Amazon. This book is perfect for book clubs too, and make sure to follow the Facebook page True Crime 608, which is dedicated to the victims and their families of unsolved murders and missing persons. Most of the stories are from Rock County and Dane County, Wisconsin. Rock County's Unsolved Murders and Missing Persons from author Terry Garcia. Order your copy right now on Amazon. Robert Allen Miltenberg invites you to time travel with him to the Roman future. His new novella, available at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. It's the golden age of Rome, a time of peace and prosperity. And Scadius Commodius Lavatorius is its greatest scientist. But for all he's achieved, one question haunts him. Will Rome survive the test of time? There's only one way to find out. Come along on this cosmic romp of an adventure. See if you can read the signs any better than a brilliant scientist can. Prediction, science fiction, allegory, national glory. This is a satire at its most gladiatorial. Center stage in the Circus Maximus of your mind. A story of time machines and timeless politics, strange Roman cuisine and gambling parlor tricks, spinning gold and crossing the river Styx. That's the Roman future. Available on Kindle and paperback. Go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble now and visit The Roman Future by Robert Allen Miltenberg today.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Don't forget, the Brian Craig Show podcast is uploaded on my YouTube channel, Brian Craig Show on YouTube, but is also available on all podcast platforms. If there's a podcast platform, we are on it. Just search for the Brian Craig Show podcast. And do you know this is the 11th year of the Brian Craig Show podcast? And actually, September 12th will be the official 11th year anniversary of the program. So you can go on a whole binge listening thing, listening to years of programs. And Kathy had a suggestion to me that I thought was pretty cool. And I'm going to start to do this myself when I'm on some long car drives. You can actually go back and start listening 2015, 2016. You can listen to our podcast taking us through the entire Trump first term.
Yeah, you can relive all that wonderful stuff because all of our shows are there. And I was saying that to you yesterday. I said, people, maybe we should let them know that we don't remove our shows.
No,
and people can go back and listen to old shows. Like Brian said, if you're on a long drive or cleaning the house or something, and you can relive all that 2016 excitement. That's how far back we go. You can even go back to the show when Trump announced his presidency.
That's right.
And the day we talked about that, because let me tell you something. If you love Trump, anything at all that happened in Trump's life, we talked about it, okay? We discussed it. And so if you want to relive those moments, go back. They're all archived there. You can just bring them up and listen.
In fact, the Brian Craig Show podcast, which again is on all podcast platforms, is part of a historical archive,
I think so,
of President Trump's entire first campaign, second campaign, and we're doing the third campaign now, but his entire first term. So go check those out. Okay, there's been a lot of snakes and Benedict Arnolds out there that have dropped Trump, and one has happened today that just really pisses me off. There's someone has a longtime conservative activist, reporter, journalist that I have had on this program. We've interviewed on this program more than once and has dropped Trump, and I'm really pissed at this person. I really am, and this was shocking to me. Lila Rose, pro-life leader Lila Rose calls Trump unqualified to lead, and she says you can't have blind loyalty. I'm going to read the whole article, but for those that don't know who Lila Rose is, I'm going to just tell you real quick. Lila Rose did an amazing thing. This happened many years ago. She worked with Andrew Breitbart and James O'Keefe before any of us knew who James O'Keefe was, before he was famous, and he was being mentored, James O'Keefe, by the great late Andrew Breitbart. Lila Rose went undercover with cameras into Planned Parenthood facilities all over this country and exposed them. And James O'Keefe helped her. He did the set her up with the hidden equipment, and it was really how he learned how to do his Acorn thing down the road. Eventually, this was like the beginning. Before he did the Acorn thing, he was with Lila Rose doing this, of course, with Breitbart and Andrew Breitbart himself, not just because that was his mentor. And the success that she had with Planned Parenthood is what got James O'Keefe started with the Acorn, which led to Project Veritas and where he is today. But what Lila Rose would do is she would go to Planned Parenthood facilities all over the country. She would have hidden cameras with audio, with sound, visual and sound. She would tell them she was underage, oftentimes about 15 years old, pregnant, and was impregnated by an adult man and needed an abortion. And those are statutory rapes. Each one of those is a sexual assault. You got, adult man impregnating 15-year-old.
Absolutely.
None of them called the police. And it was one of the things that eventually led to President Trump overturning Roe v. Wade. So she's not someone that I take lightly. I mean, she is
you think she'd be happy?
Yeah, well,
he did that. That's a huge thing.
I'm going to go through this article and we'll talk about it as we go. But, Jean-Pierre said she was a historical figure over the weekend. I mean, give me a break. Lila Rose is a Rosa Parks-like figure. What she did, exposing Planned Parenthood, had never been done before. It's something that people suspected. It's something that people talked about. We'd hear isolated secondhand stories.
That's brave, too, because you kind of put yourself out there and become like a target of people that are activists that are not so nice.
But so she did she did a journalistic series like none other. She should have been given Pulitzer Prizes for, and she is in fact a historical figure for her work against Planned Parenthood. And so for her to drop Trump really pisses me off. I'm really angry at her. Let me read this article. Live Action founder and pro-life leader Lila Rose, who I've had on the podcast multiple times, told Americans to trust their conscience when voting for president in 2024 and argued that Trump was backsliding on pro-life issues despite his role in the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade was overturned by the Supreme Court a year ago this week, ending nearly 50 years of national right to abortion enshrined in the law. In the nearly 12 months since that ruling, Dobbs versus Jackson's women's health organization, some of the most influential voices in the pro-life movement, are pushing for a new frontier, complete and equal protection for children, according to Rose. And she says this, I'm very hopeful, and it's not just empty optimism, Rose said, of the future of the pro-life movement. Over the last year, Rose said 360 pro-life bills were filed in state legislatures. There were 24,000 fewer abortions, and that's even with the increase in places like California. Some of those steps, including the overturning of Roe v. Wade, have been monumental. The chokehold of Roe is now gone, she said, but the pro-life movement is not done. If we spend our time listening to what our opponents are telling us is politically possible and what the media says is politically possible, we'd make no progress. The mission is to complete legal protection for the unborn child. That means being aggressive and bold with our pro-life strategy, not making compromises. The pro-life movement needs to be aggressive, she said. Then she says, she gets into the presidential race. Rose herself is not shied away from battling with major political personalities. She made waves on Twitter after she declared in April that Trump disqualified himself from the Republican nomination by calling the human right to life merely a state-level issue. So she says he's disqualified now. Well, let me tell you, this really pisses me off, okay?
Well, remember, what he did is...
I'm really pissed at her.
I am too, because, like you said, thousands of babies have been saved since this has happened. And
millions of babies will be born because of Trump.
She should be very happy about that. He has done more for the pro-life movement than anybody has been able to do since the 70s. And what she's probably thinking about is Trump came out and I didn't agree with this. When he was attacking DeSantis, he said DeSantis was too severe on abortion. And he shouldn't have said that, Trump, and I don't know why he did. I still think he has a bit of a moderate tendency on that issue.
No, he doesn't.
Or he was just trying to attack DeSantis on something.
It's not that.
And I think that's where this is coming from. Is Trump said DeSantis is too hardcore on anti-abortion on Roe v. Wade, and he needs to be more.
Let me tell you.
He did say that though. So maybe that's what flipped her mind.
He didn't mean any of those things.
Well, he said it.
No, he said what he said, but he didn't mean what you say he meant.
He said the 6-week ban on abortion was too strict in Florida. That's what he said. Trump.
I understand. I was watching it live. I heard him say it. See, this is the difference between, and this really upsets me to have to criticize. It's really terrible. We've got all these traitors in the Republican Party, and I hate to criticize Lila Rose. I do not like to criticize Lila Rose.
She should still support Trump.
But here's the thing. When it comes to abortion, there's a big difference between what Lila Rose accomplished and what Donald Trump accomplished.
Absolutely.
Donald Trump actually ended abortion throughout this country. So this is the deal, okay? Donald Trump is pro-life, just like we are. And you guys, he's pro-life. But he understands that when you're trying to get something done, you have to compromise to get things done, or you get nothing done. And President Trump, we were talking about this on one of the podcasts last week. It might have been the last episode before this one, but it was definitely last week. What the Republican Party platform always was overturn Roe v. Wade and let the states decide. Yep. So the states are now deciding, and some are having stricter rules on abortion, and some are loosening them up like California. Overall, tens of thousands of babies have been born in the last year that would have been aborted. And millions of people are going to be born because of Donald Trump overturning Roe v. Wade. Right now, this is what Donald Trump is doing. Right now, there are restrictions being put on abortion all over this country. And what he is doing is not rocking the boat on that to make it easier to pass those things. If you come in, most of these states that have legislation with further restrictions on abortion, which is a good thing. We want no abortions, right?
Right.
They're going to pass them, and they're going to limit them. And if you're at Trump's level, or you're like Lila Rose, and you start hounding them, there's going to be pressure put on them, and those things won't get passed. So, no, Lila Rose is wrong. And I'll tell you another thing, too. Abortion is not going to end, unfortunately, with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, but we're a lot closer than anyone thought. No one thought Roe v. Wade would ever be overturned, even the Republicans. And what's going on with Lila Rose right now, she's not aware of this, okay? So I'm not saying I'm pissed off at Lila Rose. Make no mistake about it, but she doesn't understand what's going on. There are a lot of organizations that are activist organizations that stand up for good causes. And then that the cause that they're fighting for is accomplished and the organization is still in existence, and then all they do is cause trouble. I give an example. The NAACP. The NAACP at a time was a great organization. The Democrat Party was segregating every aspect of American society they had a hand in to exclude blacks. In fact, the Democrats' favorite president, the one they say is the greatest president of all time, Franklin Roosevelt, excluded African Americans from the New Deal. All those New Deal jobs, building Hoover Dam and all those programs around the world, they were forbidden from taking part in it. okay? There's many other examples, but just to give you an example, okay? And the NAACP stood up against all of these Democrat racial injustices. That example, Jim Crow, segregated schools, all these things. So then eventually everything the NAACP and good Americans like us wanted was accomplished. We have a colorblind society. But what happens? NAACP still exists. The people that run it have these powerful jobs. They make a lot of money and they don't want to fold. So they're still acting like, okay, institutionalized racism, systemic racism, reparations. Now what they're doing, instead now the NAACP, and there's other groups, labor unions are like this, okay? Gay activist groups have gotten everything that they've ever dreamed of and more, but they're still there. There's a lot of money in these activist groups, so now they got us involved in these other things that are going on. But the NAACP, when Barack Obama was sworn in for his second term, the NAACP should have had a press conference. Mission accomplished. We are now folding.
Brian, these groups, they don't ever want to have resolution because you're right. They want to keep going. They make so much money.
Well, here's the thing.
They get so much in donations.
Well,
they don't want it to end. And these politicians use these issues like Biden's going to California to raise money for Newsom.
That's right.
They're using climate change to raise money. They use these issues to get people upset and start opening their wallets.
So what I'm telling you...
Yes, we have to save the planet. Send them $100.
So what I'm telling you is Lila Rose, she's not aware of this, okay? Because she's not a bad person. She did some good things. She's not aware of this, but she's trying to maintain an activist organization and tell people that there's been defeats and we are where we were 2 years ago when Roe v. Wade was overturned. She's in a transformative state of activism, much like the NAACP or the labor union. You know, labor unions, great example. There was a time when we needed labor unions when workers were being abused. Those days were ended, but the labor unions, they stayed in existence, and now what happened? They drove the jobs to China. Lila Rose cannot accept a victory. She wants to be fighting forever. Not only did we overturn Roe v. Wade, we're making great gains nationwide, and she's afraid she's not going to be relevant anymore. And it may be at a subconscious level, but she doesn't want her importance as a pro-life activist to disappear. And in a weird way, it's almost like she doesn't want the issue to end. Do you understand what I mean? So her dropping Trump, I'm disgusted by her. The more I talk about it, I'm more pissed at Lila Rose. I don't think she's self-aware of what I'm saying to you right now. But that's what I think. We'll be right back.
Are you searching for hope throughout the storms of life? Author Angela Nicole's new book, I See God, is an inspiring book that's available on Amazon right now. In I See God, journey with the author as she battles kidney disease, where earnest prayers and unwavering faith reveal a God who makes the impossible possible. Meet a God who is by your side, a God who remains true to his word and is working tirelessly for your good. Let your spirit be uplifted as you rise above the waves and witness miracles. Embrace hope and order your copy of I See God from author Angela Nicole. Available on Amazon. Are you ready to unlock your child's creativity and imagination? Introducing B-Block's Building Block STEM toy that offers endless possibilities for building and fun. Available online at amazon.com/B-Blocks. That's BEBLOX. With B-Block's Building Block STEM toy, the building adventures are limitless. They're available in 2 sets, 250 pieces and 500 pieces. The more pieces you have, the more you can create. These vibrant and sturdy building tiles come in 8 different colors, allowing your child to explore colors, shapes, and designs in an exciting and fun way. It's a tool for learning development by stimulating creativity. These STEM projects enhance fine motor skills, hand-eye coordination, and even introduce basic geometry as well as architectural concepts. Whether it's a birthday or any occasion, B-Block's Building Block STEM toy makes a smart gift idea for both boys and girls age 4 to 12. Don't miss out on this incredible STEM toy that sparks imagination and learning. Go right now to amazon.com/B-Blocks. That's BEBLOX. Amazon.com/B-Blocks. Are you a tabletop game enthusiast searching for a podcast that covers tabletop games? Then check out the Tabletop Shop Podcast. Join hosts Cody and Nate, two friends who share a passion for board games. Every week, they bring you a new episode that explore the nuances of tabletop gaming, from card games to ancient strategy games and everything in between. The Tabletop Shop Podcast covers it all. They'll take you on their journey of exploring new games, sharing their experiences, and engaging in lively discussions. They also feature interviews with board game designers, fellow podcasters, and other incredible individuals from the industry, so you'll get a behind-the-scenes look at the world of tabletop gaming. You'll want to check out their other podcast too, the Dicecast, where they discuss the exciting world of RPG systems. Find the Tabletop Shop Podcast on Spotify, YouTube, and all major podcast platforms. The Tabletop Shop Podcast, your ticket to endless fun and adventure.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. I want to take a moment to thank all of our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. Thank you so much, everyone. And if you would like to support the program, a way you can do that is to become a patron. There's a link in the episode description to our Patreon page. And all Patreon supporters have access to commercial-free editions of each and every podcast episode. And our top Patreon supporters get a live, on-air thank you shout-out on each and every podcast. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Rick, Nick, Wesley, Macho, Rome, Wisconsin, Mike P, Carlos, Paulette, John, and Arctic Fox. These are our top Patreon supporters. And remember, if you go in the episode description, there's a link to our Patreon page. Yeah, I'm looking here at the Drudge Report. It's amazing. The Drudge Report, they're actually getting news in there again. There was a story a month or so ago on the Drudge Report. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, oh, this is the first time there's been breaking news on the Drudge Report in years. And I'm going there more often now. It's not the old Drudge Report. But even here, here's top story. This is Blinken over there in China, sucking up. He met the president of China. Spy balloon chapter should be closed. And he pledges to stabilize the U.S.-China ties. That means, promise them Trump won't be back. I don't know why the spy balloon thing should be closed. The spy balloon...
Because they don't want us to talk about it, that's why.
Yeah, the spy balloon, which was a controlled flight across the entire United States, went over all of our top secret military bases and missile silos. And what the Chinese were doing with that is we're marking out their targets. They were recalibrating their missiles and their bombers and everything else they have. Now they got targets, and that's what that was all about. But there's one thing I wanted to mention that's unrelated to the politics. Some of you might have seen this. A pit bull was stabbed to death in Central Park. Some dog walkers got into him. But anytime I see these stories and I bring them up on the podcast, I always get messages and things from pit bull lovers. I love dogs. I love cats. I love animals. Pit bulls should not exist. I mean, pit bulls are dangerous. Not only are they dangerous, you see stories all the time of people being mauled, sometimes children, by pit bulls. When I was a kid, there was a pit bull that got out from someone's house, got in the neighborhood, and attacked my grandparents' Cocker Spaniel. And it grabbed the dog. It grabbed my grandparents' Cocker Spaniel by the neck. It was one of the scariest things I've ever seen. And my dad, actually, he grabbed a 2x4 and hit the dog over the back, and it let go and ran off. They are deadly dogs. I see people, even in our own neighborhood, walking around with pit bulls. I'm not saying that we should put them all down, but people should stop breeding them. And I see people walking their pit bulls, and it's like
people like Rachel Ray. She loves her pit bulls. They love them.
There's no good comes from a pit bull.
And
no
let me tell you, I don't mean this to sound rude, but people that have pit bulls with children, should have their children removed from the home. And we saw this one story last year where this family had 2 kids, a 2-year-old and a baby, and the pit bull killed them both.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're asking for it, but they kind of are. When you have a pit bull and you know their reputation, and you have babies in that, any kind of child, that's it. We had a dog when Emily was little, and her name was Harley, and it was my dog, and I love that dog, but she was a very anxious dog. And she was like a Shetland. What do they call those dogs? Like a not
I
a
can't
Shetland
remember.
pony. It was like a little collie,
a Sheltie.
Very pretty dog. And the neighbors came over when we first moved in our house, and I told them not to pet her. I said she doesn't know you, but of course they didn't do what I said, and they bothered her, and she bit the one. So, we had to have her unfortunately put down after that, because then she started to get more aggressive with the kids, and it scared me. And she was an older dog anyway. She was like 13, 14 years old. And she wasn't even a type of breed that's dangerous, but I never thought she would bite a kid. When you have, so there was no thinking of, Shelties have bad reputations. When you have a pit bull, their reputation. And what they're capable of. I just read a story of a woman a pit bull went to attack her grandson. It's in the Daily Mail. She's got her face all bloodied, and she jumped in to stop it. And the dog went after her, and her face is all cut up, and she did what she had to do. But from the stories I read, I'm glad your dad was able to stop it. But from the stories I've read, they are very difficult to stop once they get.
Oh, yeah.
Their teeth into something.
Once they get blood in their mouth,
and
that's it.
We had the street next to ours. I remember when we had our dog Daisy. Now, you would walk Daisy all the time. Our dog Nina now doesn't like to be walked, so we don't walk her. But Daisy, you walked every day. And one time I went with you guys, and we walked down this one street, and there was somebody out there with a pit bull. And I said to you, don't ever walk down the street again. I'm like, because even though Daisy was a tough dog, and believe me, she was tough, and she was not small, but I said to you, I'm afraid this dog's going to go after her.
It will.
And Daisy was the kind of dog that didn't back down from a fight, okay? She wasn't mean or aggressive, but if another dog went after her, she would not cower. She was definitely an alpha dog, her personality. So I don't want to say that they deserve it, but I agree with you. These dogs should not be around, and people do love their pit bulls.
No,
it's a whole culture. It's dangerous. I want to talk about this one poll. If you guys follow Interactive Polls on Twitter, real quick, it's a very good Twitter to follow. And they post all different kinds of polls from all different things. So they have a Harvard poll. Harvard's not conservative. President Trump is at 45%. He's up 6 points. Biden is at 39%. Mm-hmm. So he has gained 6 points over Biden. This was from 5 days ago. This is after the indictment. DeSantis is 41 over 40 with Biden. Now, if we do the GOP, Trump is up at 59%. DeSantis is at 14%. That is such a huge gap. I don't see DeSantis making any inroads on these gaps.
He's
the gaps
losing.
Are still they're
getting further apart.
They're still by 30 points. They're huge.
And some of the points in some of the polls he's almost in single digits. Now I'll tell you who's doing well, and that is Robert Kennedy Jr. And when Robert Kennedy Jr. first announced, I told you that if he becomes a threat to the Democrats, you're going to hear about those 20-year-old RFK Jr. sex diaries.
Yep.
And sure enough.
Of course, you were right.
Sure enough, it's on the Drudge Report, and it's circulating. There's a story that is 10 years old that is circulating on social media today in the New York Post. RFK's sex diary, his secret journal of affairs. Now, he's a Kennedy, so we just assume he's got affairs going on. This was about 2000, 2001. I remember it well. And now it's making the rounds on social media. Most people aren't familiar with it. And they're going to try to make them familiar with it now because he's a threat to the Democrat establishment. In fact,
a lot of people like him. He's very moderate. He really makes sense.
Yeah, there's polling out among Democrat voters, not Republicans, just Democrats, and the majority of Democrats want Biden to debate Robert Kennedy.
Oh, yeah, he's a big threat to Biden. And let me tell you, if they debate each other, I don't think Biden's going to debate anybody. But if they do, I think you're going to see a marked difference in their approach and their personalities, and people are going to be like, wow, this guy really has his head together, and Biden's like out of it.
So this article I'm going to share with you is from September 2013, which is still over a decade after the diaries, but this old New York Post article is making the rounds on social media today, and I think a lot of people will be shocked by this story because a lot of people aren't familiar with it. And here's the story. And again, this is from 2013. New York Post. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s journal is full of mistresses and Catholic guilt. The New York Post exclusively revealed RFK's secret slams against Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and Governor Cuomo. That's the father, Governor Cuomo,
not
Fredo.
It's only going to make him look good.
And this is how old the article is. Sharpton and Jesse Jackson were like important Democrats back then. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. grappled with what he called his biggest defect, my lusty demons, while keeping a scorecard of more than 24 conquests, according to a secret diary. The thick red journal was found in their home by his wife, Mary Richardson Kennedy, who, distraught over their divorce and Kennedy's serial philandering, committed suicide over this. Oh
my goodness.
A copy of the 398-page diary reviewed by the New York Post details RFK Jr.'s daily activities, speeches, political activism.
How did they get a hold of this diary?
Somehow the wife found it and it got out, and she had committed suicide.
Biden's daughter's diary is worse.
Yeah. A copy of the 398 pages reviewed by the New York Post details RFK Jr.'s daily activities, speeches, political activism, and the lives of his 6 children in 2001. But they also record the names of women with numbers from 1 to 10 next to each entry.
Oh my God.
Why
Why did he put this in writing? What an idiot.
The codes corresponded to sexual acts.
Oh my God. How many were there?
With 10 meaning intercourse. Mary, this is the ex-wife, told a confidant. There are 37 women named in the ledger, 16 of whom get 10s. On November 13th, 01, RFK Jr. Records a triple play. The separate encounters,
oh my goodness,
coded 10, 3, and 2, occurred the same day when he attended a black tie fundraiser at the Waldorf Astoria for Christopher Reeve's charity, where he sat next to the Superman star, magician David Blaine, and comic Richard Belzer. So, Christopher, this is how old it is. Richard Belzer's dead, Christopher Reeve's dead, and David Blaine's career's dead.
Yes.
It was a hectic month for Kennedy, who traveled to Toronto, Louisiana, and D.C., and listed at least one woman's name on 22 different dates, including 13 consecutive days. Most women are identified only by first name in the ledger. They include a lawyer, an environmental activist, a doctor, and at least one woman married to a famous actor. Oh, I'd like to know who that is. Who's the actor? A New York Post reporter who questioned Kennedy about the diary was met with 6 seconds of stunned silence. I don't think there is in any way you could have a diary or journal of mine from 01, Kennedy said. I don't have a comment on it. I have no diary from 01. The diary is laced with Kennedy's Catholic guilt over his infidelities, which follow the same pattern of affairs pursued by his uncle and his father. On days without a woman's name, Kennedy would often write victory. This meant he had resisted sexual temptation, according to a source. Despite the terrible things happening in the world, my life is great, he wrote, November 5th, 01, so I've been looking for ways to screw it up. I'm like Adam and live in Eden, and I can have everything but the fruit. But the fruit is all I want. The 59-year-old son, he was 59 at the time of the article, of the assassinated U.S. senator was so tortured by his desire that spending a month in jail in Puerto Rico was a welcome. I'm so content here, he writes. I didn't know he was incarcerated in Puerto Rico. I don't remember that. He took part in protest of some military exercises there, and that's why he got locked up. But anyway, the sex diary... let me tell you something. The sex diary was a big story when it came out years ago. I remember it well. But people don't care about these personal things anymore. We have a senile old coot who takes bribes and does things that are inappropriate with women on TV against their will, like Eva Longoria on Friday. And while everything Robert Kennedy did is terrible and everything else, and his poor wife, it was over 20 years ago, okay? So, and, So it's not necessarily relevant today. Although Cheryl Hines, his new wife, may not be happy that this story is coming out again.
I think in today's world, people are so desensitized to these sex scandals.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody cares. Plus, it was in the past
over 20
with
years
a different wife. He's a Kennedy. They all screwed around.
Yeah.
And he's got a new wife. He's older. I don't think anybody gives a damn. I really don't. I mean, they're all sleazes, these politicians, these men with power. I don't know what it is. Women just throw themselves at them. How did this guy get so much
because he's a Kennedy.
Action? These women have to stop being so freaking easy. I mean, I know he's a Kennedy, but women are just too easy these days. I'm sorry. This guy he had 3 women in one night. I mean, none of these were paid for. These are just regular women that just threw themselves
and they were
at this
big
guy.
shot women.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Anyway, I don't care. You know what I mean? I really don't. It's his wife's ex-wife's problem.
Well, no, his ex-wife that committed
It's
suicide.
Current wife's problem. She did. Oh, that's awful. Over that's crazy.
Well, it says here, I don't know if...
I think she did kill herself.
I don't know if over that, I don't know. But I do know this.
Don't kill yourself over a man.
One thing that's interesting about the diary, though, is how he was trying to overcome his sinful desires and was like also taking note. Like he was trying to...
Well, it sounds like he was a sex addict, but men that are in those kind of powerful positions, and being a Kennedy... you're probably in a very, you got money, you got fame, you got power, you got all 3. It's a perfect storm. And when you have beautiful women, famous women throwing themselves at you, guys that are a little weak in that department might have a difficult time saying no, when you're not home a lot, or I don't know. I'm not excusing it,
Kathy,
but I really just don't care. We
Okay.
got, like you said, we got bigger problems right now.
The country, obviously, we're not supporting Robert Kennedy.
No,
however,
but he's better than Biden for the Democrats,
however,
for sure.
If he was carrying on that way today, which I'm not saying he is, but if he were carrying on that way today,
you think it would be an issue?
I don't think people would care. I think Biden is so bad, and that the Democrats want him out, that the Democrats would support a Robert Kennedy behaving this way today over Biden.
Is he rising in the polls over Biden?
Why do you think this story is circulating on social media?
Must be.
I told you they would. The internal polls that the Democrats have must really be scaring them to bring this story out so early.
Yeah.
I thought they would save it. Well, listen, guys, we're out of time. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Don't forget, the Brian Craig Show podcast is on all podcast platforms as we approach the 11th anniversary of this podcast. We'll talk to you next time.
Who says you can't heal hunger? In Jojoima, Sierra Leone, there's proof that healing hunger is not just a dream, but a reality. Right now, a group of dedicated individuals have come together with a plan that works. Starting from one household, they're expanding their efforts to benefit the entire community. Their approach is unique, rehabilitating a plantation left to despair. But it's not just about revitalizing the land. It's about creating a how-to model that can help communities around the world. Using climate-sensitive technology and proven practices that actually work, they're healing people of the waste and malnutrition that comes from hunger and give them a chance for education and independence. By supporting this cause, you're empowering individuals to stand up for themselves and fight back against corruption, together breaking the cycle of survival mode and giving people the freedom to express themselves. This incredible group is looking for problem solvers, not complainers, and with your help, they can make a real difference across the planet. Healing hunger in one part of the world heals it everywhere. Join in and saving this devastated plantation. Visit fundraiser.com/crops for Jojoima. That's fundrazr.com/crops for Jojoima and help save a devastated plantation and revive the village of Jojoima. That's fundraiser.com/crops for Jojoima.